is the workable alternative.
Next call is from San Diego. You're on.
Yeah, it's kind of complicated because on the right, the protection of our economy and the private enterprise system, the evidence every day is enough to make you want to vomit. I mean, it's sickening. But also on the left and the socialists, you look at it for 70 years, there's no emphasis on any entrepreneurial opportunities for those people. Why do they just persist in staying in the same kind of ideas? You go to a socialist to solve any kind of a problem, they never have any new ideas. It's almost like they're bankrupt since 1917, and everything they've ever tried really has failed. They have to come back and use capitalistic ideas. Why can't they create some new kind of an economic system that really does work? Well, I never see any sincere effort in this behalf, and so I keep rejecting it. I know that wealth, you feel a sense of, when you see the ostentation display of wealth, it's sickening, and I think that's why most socialists turn away from it. But also, there's just no ideas. I can see there's no way that you can find love and happiness in the socialist system. There's just no way that if you're not on the inside of the movement, you can't get in. They have a bureaucracy that just blocks you out at every turn. It's a hopeless situation. I'd like to see, Shaw said that youth is wasted on the young. Christopher, so far, I tend to agree with him.
I agree with him too, especially since I'm nearer 40 than 30 now. I mean, I'm happy to take that as a comment, but insofar as it was a question, I think it was to me, and I'd say this about it. Britain, since 1945, has been a very, very heavily state-run economy, but also a very, very capitalist one. And another point of interest about Thatcherism has been this, that she believes that Britain has been, in a sense, a socialist collectivist society, really since Churchill ceased to be Prime Minister in 1945. Now, the fact that that's a nonsensical opinion and doesn't fit with any known fact or any known theory doesn't quite rob it of its power, because it's certainly true that there was a lot of inefficient public ownership, a great deal of what I would call craft unionism, trade unions simply acting as syndicates for the protection of members, what you might call on the waterfront trade unionism in some cases. And a great presumption of subsidy in the case of any business that ever got into trouble. And most of that under conservative governments. It was the Conservatives, for example, who nationalized Rolls-Royce, which was very symbolic in the early 1970s. Thus, one has to say that at least in theory, Thatcher does believe that everybody should take their chances and believes in meritocracy rather than in hierarchy and so forth. But I regard that as basically for public consumption. I think you will find, in fact, that the tax breaks that she's given to those who already are well off and to the businesses that are already in place haven't been rewarded by further investment.
Could I come back on that?
Sure.
I'd like to make two comments. First of all, one thing which is, I think, extremely depressing to many people in Britain is the way in which many people are cut off from the opportunity of using their own initiative. It's really pretty grim, the way in which, in a sense, if people haven't been at the right place at the right point of time with the right qualifications, they don't really have a second chance, and the way in which within many different enterprises, especially large state-run enterprises, but this kind of ethos has carried over to a considerable extent into private business in Britain. If someone shows initiative, if they're a little bit old, if they haven't come in with the right sort of qualifications, then there's really no hope for them. And certainly one thing which I think has been extremely striking about the activities of the Conservatives under Thatcher has been a wish to try to break with these very deep-seated institutions and patterns in Britain.
Yes,
and it's something which is extremely difficult to do, but where certainly they have grasped this particular nettle in a way in which no one else has done.
Jim, I don't know if you're going to show any of the Labour spokesmen as
We
go
are
on,
in just a few minutes.
But let me just say, 'cause now might be the time to say it, it's very striking. Neil Kinnock made a video for this campaign. Labour had never tried any of this
That's
stuff.
the Labour leader.
Yeah, Neil Kinnock, the Labour leader, made a video of a kind Labour had never tried before, and this, for some reason, had a tremendous effect. It moved him 14 points up. in the opinion polls the morning after it was shown. And the high point of this 10-minute video is him giving a speech in Wales to a working-class audience and saying, why am I the first member of my family ever to go to university? Why is my wife the first member of my family, of her family, ever to go to university? We come from 1,000 generations of workers and soldiers and poets and games players and artisans and craftsmen. Was it because we were thick? No, it wasn't because we were thick. Was it because we were lazy? It wasn't because we were lazy. Was it because we were weak? No, it wasn't. And it was because we never had a platform. We never had a party. We never had the money. We never had any of the advantages that necessitate the simple thing like higher education. Now, the fact that in Britain, in 1987, an appeal like that can have such a tremendous effect on public opinion, so many people recognizing themselves in such an appeal, is a tremendous condemnation of the way our society is organized. People know they've been wasted. They saw their parents' lives squandered with no opportunity, no advantage, for class reasons. And that still remains the most salient fact about our country. And I therefore think that Thatcher's dealing in illusion